Thank you. I would like to call the Dunn County Planning and Resource Development Committee and Land Conservation Committee to order here Thursday, August 6th. And call of the roll, we have everyone here. That would lead us to approval of the minutes. Diane, thank you. Move to approve. Supervisor Bauer, second. I know I don't have any. Well, yeah.
Only thing in here it notes that I was excused, but in the verbal recording of the meeting, said that Mike was excused and that I was absent, but I did talk at the last meeting.
I didn't hear that you were excused, so.
And I did see it then on the minutes.
Yeah,
which is,
correct.
yeah, that's good. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Just
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't look at the minutes and thinks that I'm skipping meeting.
Yeah.
Hate to have that happen.
Any other comments about the minutes? All in favor then, aye? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, we're on to number 4, public comments related to items on the agenda. Are there public comments related to items on the agenda? Okay. And just as a start here for everybody, any person wishing to address the county board, you can do that now and you get 3 minutes. All comments must be germane to one of the agenda items, and this is on the modular data center item on our agenda. That would be 7D. Comments must be germane to that. And there will be no give and take. It's just comments to the board. Hit the right button.
Here.
Okay, Eric, would you please state your name and address?
Yes, name is Eric Shannon. Address is 1615 South Platte Street, Denver, Colorado, 80202. Okay. Good morning, Chair Kinnear and members of the committee. Thank you for the time this morning. I'm here to speak on behalf of the modular data center that Nodiac is looking to develop. It is a small modular data center in the town of Hay River, approximately 2 megawatts inside a 6-acre area next to the existing solar farm and ethanol plant, served by Dunn Energy Cooperative, excuse me. It is sited within a 39-acre parcel. However, we only have a lease for a 6-acre area of interest, excuse me, within it. We do not anticipate needing more land for a 2-megawatt project and believe it will fit within actually 2 acres or less after studies get completed. For scale, that is a small fraction of the hyperscale campuses making headlines around the state. First, we support the ordinance work Tammy has brought to the committee, or will be. Clear, permanent rules for data centers are the right outcome for Dunn County, and we will be happy to participate in that process if welcomed. Our request today is about what happens while those rules get written. Nodiac and I asked the committee to treat our Hay River project as a pilot under the county's existing conditional use framework, running in parallel with ordinance formation. That framework already gives the committee and county full control. You can attach every condition an ordinance would eventually contain. Noise, limits, setbacks, screening, decommissioning security, monitoring, reporting, and more is necessary. And if we fail to meet a condition, the county can revoke the permit. I also want to be direct about what we hear in the community, and that is rooted in trust. People have watched big projects overpromise and rightfully can have a hard time taking a developer's word. We are not asking the community to just believe our promises at face value. We are asking to be held to legally enforceable commitments from the county, written into the permit, recorded, and revocable if we break them. That is the honest way a company can earn trust, in writing first, then by performance. 2 of those commitments deserve the plainest language I have. On energy bills, Nodiac will protect consumers and pay our own way for our power, full commercial rate, full cost to connect, and we'll be contractually bound to do so. On water, our closed-loop cooling system uses less water than a backyard swimming pool. That water is trucked in rather than drawn from a well and is used over and over for years. A pilot also makes the ordinance better. Instead of drafting against headlines about facilities 50-plus times the size of ours, The committee gets real data on sound, traffic, water, tax revenue, and community benefits from a small operating example in your own county. And we commit to sharing monitoring data. We'd be proud to earn Dunn County's trust the enforceable way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shannon. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Okay, thank you. That would be public comments related to items in agenda number 4. Are there any public comments, the number 5 on the comprehensive and farmland preservation plan update? It doesn't appear to be so. So next up is number 6, public hearing. I'd like to call the public hearing to order. And again, the roll, everyone is here. The public hearing is a petition to rezone 178.76 acres from the general agriculture district to the intensive agriculture district by AAA Farms. A little housekeeping here. This is the only opportunity to speak on this rezone request. One person at a time may speak if you wish. Before addressing the committee, each person will state your name and address and be sworn in. And again, speak only to the committee. Tom, we had our open meetings notice. Is that correct? Or who? Tammy, you're confirming?
Yes,
Okay.
the hearing notice was posted as required by state law.
Okay. Then we can go on. A landowner presentation. How would you like to do this, Tammy? Would you want to go first, or is the owner here that would like to speak? Would you like to speak first? Oh, great. Come on up. Yep. Just state your name and address and
I am Justin Albright, in 8101 690th Street, Colfax. I am owner of AAA Farms. What we are proposing is that the home farm be rezoned from general ag to intensive ag for the purpose of putting in a manure lagoon. We are being required by the DNR to put in a rainwater collection. Along with that, we decided to go ahead and pursue manure storage at the same time. We currently don't have any manure storage. In doing so, the manure lagoon crosses the 40 line into the back 40 of the main building site. Main building site is already zoned intensive ag. So I just proposed to rezone the entire home farm to ag for those purposes. That's it.
thank you. Any questions right now?
So,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman.
Yep.
Justin, you guys are putting in a new feed pad as well with the leachate control system? Is that-
Yeah, so the leachate, to get it all to run to one spot, we had to reconfigure, abandon some old feed pad that flowed one direction and get it all to flow to one direction. So, yeah, the feed pad itself, what we're gonna be using won't be any bigger than what we've had, but just to get it to flow to the, for gravity flow purposes, rather than having to put in pumps and smaller tanks to transfer it.
If I may,
Keep
you guys,
going.
so you guys, you don't have all the heifers on site then? do you?
There are no heifers on site.
So,
Our heifer facilities up by, we got one facility about 3 miles down the road that has a few, calves at. But then our heifer facilities in Chippewa County up by Bloomer.
oh, okay.
So we're not looking to expand. We're gonna still milk the same number of cows. We're just,
Yeah, I kind of gathered that, by the size of the manure pit that you're putting in, so it's big enough to do what you have, but not big enough for any expansion down the road. Was there any thought to making it a little bigger just to have some cushion?
Not
None of my
really,
business, but,
but we're not a CAFO.
right.
And the next step would go to CAFO. I don't have any interest in going to CAFO.
I understand that, so.
If that interest comes to this farm, it'll be by the next generation, not me. So,
Yep, so is it, do you have any family, I mean, brothers or anything like that, or is it just,
I had one brother and then my dad and an uncle still, or,
okay,
yeah.
so you have some family.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Justin. Anybody else? You can sit down if you'd
Okay.
like, if you're open to questions later, if we have them. Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Tammy, I think you're on.
Well, Justin addressed a lot of it already. Obviously, the staff report was included in the packet. I don't know how much detail you want me to go through this entire presentation. Big picture, like Justin shared, I think this is a good slide to represent their operation and show that the existing 40 acres for the operations, that's in zone intensive ag. Everything around that is general agriculture. So with that waste storage straddling two zoning districts is really, a challenge to have a structure within that. So at minimum, we'd want to rezone the 40 acres immediately west of the operation. Otherwise, but in the same process and consulting with Justin, it does make sense to go the entire operation in intensive agriculture, because then it just minimizes any future conflict that, may come, and that's what the operation already is using. So overall, in the staff report, outlines that information. Included is the hearing notices that were provided to the neighboring parcels.
And you received no feedback from them?
Correct. No.
Okay, Supervisor Morehouse.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, Tammy, I thought your report was excellent. And Dave, your questions kind of helped solidify some of the things in there. Do you have a comment?
Just a question, either Justin or Tammy, is this a cement lagoon then?
Yes.
Chase.
Yep.
So,
With water stop. Yep.
and so then, is there cost sharing involved with it as well?
That is correct.
So then this will be built NRCS standards, the pit will be.
That is
so,
correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
And maybe just a point for the committee is, in addition to this process, they will, any operation over 500 animal units is required to be zoned intensive agriculture and then go through livestock siting. So we're starting to do cleanup as we start looking through operations that have never went through, or, making sure they're zoned properly and actually go through that livestock siting process. So later this fall, AAA Farms will be going through that next step in our ordinance.
Yes. Supervisor Steyer?
There, then there should be a bunch more coming through then as well, is that correct?
That would be correct.
So that 500 animal unit is a county requirement for 1A or for A1.
Correct.
Supervisor Morehouse, thank you.
Just curious, and I'm sure this has gone on for a while, but how long has the farm been operating with 781 animal units without livestock siting or rezoning?
So livestock, well, that's a really great question, because if we go back to our zoning ordinance in 1992, we even required operations to be zoned in exclusive agricultural district. So I don't know, I wasn't around for the livestock siting study group, but it unfortunately doesn't appear that was even identified as the operations that were potentially in non-compliance with the rules at the time. But yeah, if we go
Yeah.
back, it really
So it's a while.
originates to 1992.
Okay,
I didn't go prior to the ordinance to capture that.
okay. And to just follow on with Supervisor Steyer, there are a number of similar operations.
That is correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would say, of course, being a dairy farmer and we're a CAFO, so, um, you know, a lot of dairy farms will grow incrementally over the years and rules change as the farms grow and sometimes farms are fine and then the rules change and then they're not. And so it's not, I, I don't know of any farmers that are gonna run to the county, so, and try to, um, stay current and stuff like that on some of the stuff. It's just, so I know a number of dairies that are under the same thing. So it's just the way things happen. But I was on the moratorium committee as well. And so there was a lot of talk I felt about smaller, the mid-sized dairies and things of that nature. I think from Chase's standpoint, I'd love to see all of those brought into the 590 nutrient management plan, that part of the process so that the manure is being accounted for and handled properly. So, but I think this is a good step. So,
Yeah, so in this case, it's all going to be accounted for. Get a manure management here and it's a good deal.
That's correct. I think that's what that process was intended, is once we get them into the intensive agricultural district, livestock siting really starts moving that needle towards compliance and more transparency.
Okay,
I will, just one more thing, the process in itself is a little daunting for farmers because nobody wants to get into more regulations and things like that. And going through the CAFO process ourselves, it was hard to take that step and become a CAFO just because of the public scrutiny and things like that. But now looking back, I'm glad we did it, what we went through. So, and Justin, I'm glad you guys are moving forward with the project and wish you well. So.
any other comments? Staff? Would you put up our choices eventually here now? I think at the end you gave us our choices, but
The choices for the committee would be
and
to,
what we just
yeah.
wait, Ms. We have
Yep.
to get out of the hearing before we do that. Anybody else wishing to testify here? Any other comments from staff or committee members? Okay, then I think I'll close the public hearing. And with the public hearing closed, without objection, could we take care of this situation right away and go to number 10A? Consideration reports, resolutions, ordinance to the county board from the Planning Resource Development Committee, AAA Farms, rezone petition, zoning map amendment. So our choices right here are on the board, are on the projection. Recommend denial, continue the public hearing to a specified date, recommend approval, and direct staff to do some work. Recommend approval, subject only to completion of et cetera. Administrative mapping requirements. Looking at those three, I'd look for a motion to, or any questions on what those mean.
I guess what, Tammy, what is your recommendation from the zoning standpoint?
So item 3, and this would be then a zoning amendment ordinance that then would go on to executive committee and county board for approval.
I would move to approve item 3.
Supervisor Steyer moved. Supervisor Wilsey second. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, unanimous. Well, congratulations. Now you have a lot of work to do too. Okay,
Thanks, Justin.
thank you for coming in. Tammy, that was a real good report. Now we're down to staff reports. 7A, Land and Water Conservation Division, staff introduction and nutrient management planning.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. As we've done here a few meetings ago, I had staff come in and just introduce themselves to you, give a brief highlight of what they're up to. Today, I have Travis Dreyer here. He's going to come up and just kind of give an introduction of himself, what the work he does. And a lot of it is related to nutrient management planning, which is obviously a topic of discussion at many different meetings here, as well as a critical component in our land and water resource management plan draft. So if Travis wants to come up and
Travis, okay, yeah, you can come up. Go ahead.
Good morning. As Chase had said, I'm dealing mostly with nutrient management planning within the county. That's a bulk of my work here. But I also work some with technical projects. So I'm doing a lot of design and construction and supervision of dams and waterways, other technical projects like that. I also work with the rental program, specifically with the tree planters that we have. And then we also have a mulcher I work with also. Take a lot of calls from the public with sometimes complaints on farm complaints or erosion complaints, work with people on that. And then for some of the educational opportunities that I also help with, I partner with CVTC with teaching a nutrient management planning program. And that specifically teaches landowners or operators how to write their own nutrient management plans and how to use that technology. So that's a real aerial view of kind of what I do. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be willing to field some.
Supervisor Steyer.
What does the CVTC program, how long is that program for farmers to become their own plan writers, and what does that all entail?
Yeah, so the program itself, we usually start in about right around Christmas time, around that time of year when most of the farms are harvest is in and things start to slow down. And depending on the size of the farm and how much homework people do on their own, it might be as little as 3 meetings. It might be as much as 5-6 meetings. So we host meetings about every other week throughout the winter, and our meetings are about 2 to 3 hours long. And during that there, we usually have about 5 or 6 hours of lecture that Mark Dink and I will do, and the rest of the time is lab time. And what that lab time is it gives the participants in the class one-on-one time for us to work with them and show them how to use the program and answer questions.
Are you using Snap Plus then? Is that what
Yes.
you guys are? So,
Yes, we are using Snap Plus.
Travis, how long have you been with the county now?
I've been with the county since October 2018.
Well, that adds up pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes by fast. Mhm.
Anybody else?
I would just say you got a key role. So a lot of the stuff that you do is very important work. So
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Hey, Travis. Yeah, thanks for coming down. Then we would be on to 7B, Land and Water Resource Management Plan. I was looking at this one,
the old one,
the old one,
or
yeah.
the current one, I should say.
Current one. I see all little tabs in mine. So we must have been using it at least for a while.
Still use it.
You do, yes.
Need to get my screen shared here for you. Okay. So in your packet was almost 80-page, around 80-page land and water resource management plan. This is our draft plan for 2027 through 2036. We've talked about it several times throughout the last several months, over a year. We've been fortunate that the timeline of this update was coincided with the comprehensive plan update and farmland preservation plan update. So we've taken advantage and appreciate the opportunity to utilize the information gathering, surveying work, and all the other things that are benefiting the comprehensive plan development to also feed into the land and water plan development. I think that's an important component where the two are fairly consistent in their, goals and objectives. In the plan, well, a real brief highlight on the timeline here. So this plan will go into effect as of January 1, 2027. Prior to that now, it's just, I would call it a first reading here, just to get your eyes on it in the full context. And then we have public notices prepared here for a public hearing at our next PRD Land Conservation Committee meeting on August 20th. Following that, I will submit it to Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection for their full review and preparation for the State Land and Water Conservation Board, where I and a member of the committee, if you're willing, or Chairperson Mike Kinnear, if they're willing to come down, the board likes to see committee representation if possible, where we will present the Land and Water Plan to the State Land and Water Board. They will likely ask questions, ask clarification, make comments, and then the hope is that they would approve this plan for our use. This plan is required in order to receive grant funding for staff and support, as well as cost share funding. So it's a critical component to the work that we do. Department of Natural Resources also has eyes on this plan because a large component of the work we do is related to administering codes that are ultimately administered through the Department of Natural Resources. So as of October 6th is when we'll be at that Land and Water Board meeting. And then following that, it ideally would come back to the full county board for approval before the end of the year. Knowing the timeline with budget and holidays, it'll likely try to get back on the October county board meeting would be ideal. I won't obviously go through every page by page, but just a couple things to highlight. I try to do my best in capturing all the people that contributed to this plan development. The agricultural and working lands focus groups that were compiled for the comprehensive plan, as well as the water and natural resources focus group meetings, and the individuals that attended those. Obviously, the tremendous survey work that was done by regional planning and Tammy and the Planning and Land Use Office to capture input from the community was also used to inform the, I guess, priority issues as we label them in this land and water plan. Jumping down to, let me jump up here, yep. So this is page 8. Page 8 of the document is related to priority issues, or in the traditional context, goals. But this is really trying to identify what are our priority concerns for the community. And again, this is based off of the input provided through the focus group meetings, as well as the survey work, and also our staff input. The main priority issues, while they're not in any particular order, the one on top stands out as a key component, and that is build and maintain strong partnerships and community relationships. We don't have success in our work without that. So that's earning trust and respect with landowners, with the community, in order to advance conservation practices, both voluntary and potentially regulatory. Following that is protect and preserve agricultural land. A large portion of our work is related to the Farmland Preservation Program and the implementation of ag performance standards that are associated with that. And that goes beyond the Farmland Preservation Program, obviously protecting farmland and agricultural land from erosion, nutrient loss, and that sort of thing, which plays into a number of the other conservation practices that impact items 3 and 4, protect and improve water quality, and then protect natural resources and habitat. Moving on to page 9, we identify some priority areas. This is a for all intents and purposes, requirement of these planning documents across the state is to try to prioritize where you're going to spend your time and your work. Time is precious. All resources are precious. And while this being a 10-year time frame, that 10 years goes by fast. This is my 3rd land and water plan update in my career. Those fly by. These priority areas that we've established for Dunn County, again, is based on implementation of input from the public, but we've identified our surface water priority areas. Clearly, the Red Cedar River TMDL, total maximum daily load, and its impact for Lakes Mahnomen and Tanner is a huge component of our work. It's a huge component of our region. And to be consistent with our partners across county lines and other agencies, that will remain a priority area for surface water. Within that watershed, we're focusing on Lower Pine Creek watershed for the next 10 years. And that is to basically highlight or emphasize some needed work there as identified in the TMDL for the Red Cedar River. Lower Pine was number 2 on the list for the most phosphorus discharge to the Red Cedar River. That was based on data back from 2012. So that may not be the case currently, but that is the best information we have available. And through our work in that watershed, we will determine whether that is a continuing need. But clearly there is some always opportunities for conservation work in all of our watersheds. The other priority surface water area is the Ogallie River watershed, and I had mentioned these at a previous meeting as well. But the Ogallie River watershed is currently has a lot of activity in it related to the development of the Ogallie Lake Association, as well as an interest by our partnering counties, Pierce, Pepin, and St. Croix, and the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service in developing a watershed plan for the Ogallie River watershed. And that is to look at nutrient loss and sedimentation, erosion within that watershed. Having this plan, which is being developed by Heather Wood in our office, as well as a representative from each other county office, will provide the potential for additional Mississippi River Basin Initiative, which is federal money that can come back to the community for implementation of conservation practices. So those practices we're looking at is nutrient management planning, is looking at erosion control through cover crops, no-till, other concentrated flow, type concerns through grass waterways and grade stabilization structures. So the standard practices that we typically implement in our community. So those are kind of where we're, I guess, planning as our priority areas. Now, this isn't to say that we don't work anywhere else in the county. So when I get to the implementation strategy, I'll talk about voluntary conservation implementation, but with an effort to try to prioritize when we need to. Also, having priority areas in this plan can open the doors for potential higher scoring on grant applications. So, some of the grants we have currently in place that assist farms in getting into compliance or upgrading to maintain compliance, those grants look to our land and water plan to see where we have our priority issue and our priority area, and that can help with scoring and the competitiveness of these grants. Let me jump down to page 13. Let me back up first. Groundwater priority area as well. I can't forget that. So our final priority area in the county is pertaining to groundwater, and this has to do with not only recent, this map here on the screen is recent 2023 through 2025 private well data, but it is also identified as a resource concern or priority area for the plan based on other monitoring we have done since 1985 that's in the state databases as well as information that we have available. This is a map developed by our office. We kind of call it a heat map, but it's a modeling of the data that we have, and the lighter the color, the higher the, average nitrate concentration in a private well in those areas. So when we look at areas where we want to focus on some of Travis's work potentially, or just our work in general around nutrient management planning, these are the areas that we will try to focus on a little bit more. Again, that's not to say that we won't take and work with landowners outside of these areas. These areas are quite broad, but certainly, the areas here that are identified, especially in the white and kind of the tan or brown colors, are some of our larger land use areas, some of our most fragile or sandiest soils, and the highest potential for leaching. I'll say all that to say that, a well in any one of these areas in the county, it doesn't mean that that well is going to test high for nitrate. Each well is unique based on its well construction and the land use that immediately surrounds it. But the odds are that there is an impact to that well in these areas more than there is in some of the other parts of the county. So again, that's where we're going to try to focus our time when given the opportunity or the need to prioritize. And lastly, I'll jump here to page 13. This is our implementation strategy. A lot of this has to do with requirements that we must implement NR 151, so the state's agricultural performance standards and prohibitions. The same rules that we have incorporated into our Chapter 10 agricultural performance standards and manure storage and management ordinance here at the county. Our implementation process is identified through these methods. So we will always take voluntary compliance first, voluntary people that want to come in and work with us, maybe have projects or have concerns on their land. We will make those our top priority to evaluate and determine that a resource concern exists and then work with them to meet their goals. Number 2 is our farmland preservation participants. So those are required to have a status review or an evaluation once every 4 years to be in compliance with the ag performance standards there, and also to maintain their participation in the farmland preservation program, which ultimately makes them eligible for income tax credits. Number 3 is our manure storage permitted facilities. So all facilities that have a manure storage permit existing, as well as any new manure storage facilities, we will work with to ensure that they are in compliance with applicable rules. We do receive complaints, especially in certain times of the year. But obviously those are things that we need to follow up on and determine if they are truly a resource concern, and if they are, what processes and evaluations are needed in order to move forward with addressing those concerns. Recipients of cost share funds. So this is something that isn't always what we have done in the past, but if you're a recipient of cost share funds in the future, we will be taking a closer look at ag performance standards, Chapter 10, NR 151 compliance, and ensure that we have a schedule or some sort of a plan going forward that we can work towards getting into compliance. And then number 6 is where I highlight those priority areas within the county. So when the opportunity arises and we need to focus on how we direct our work and where we spend our time, these are the areas that we're going to try to work closely with. I'll take a minute just to remind everyone about the compliance and the regulatory component of it. NR 151 was adopted in October 1 of 2002. Any farm that's considered existing prior to that date would be required to be offered cost share prior to being required to follow any of the ag performance standards. So this is where we have to work through our resources and agencies and other opportunities for grant funding in order to provide cost share funds in order to get into compliance. Anyone that has expanded, built after October 1 of 2002 is not obligated to receive an offer of cost share, but that isn't really the case here. Most of the farms are eligible for a cost share offer. So certainly we look at that very closely as we move through any processes like that. Number 1 was voluntary. Again, we want to work with people. We want to build those relationships and that trust, but it isn't to say that we aren't willing and have examples of using regulatory implementation of our ordinance to achieve compliance. I think there is a factor there where landowners, certainly we hear the comments often of, well, I have to do this, why doesn't so-and-so? And I think, holding people accountable to follow the rules, especially those that maybe are egregious non-compliance, helps us build relationships and trust within the greater community that we're following up on things that are out of control. Lastly, I will just jump all the way almost to the end. And that would be, let's see here. Oh, just a little bit too far. This would be our work plan. So this is our draft work plan for, on average, the next 10 years. And this is where I've taken the approach to tie specific activities, planned activities or actions to elements of the land and water plan, identifying benchmarks and then performance measures. It is our intent at this point to bring this work plan to you, to this committee, at the beginning or the end of any given year to identify and confirm that these are the elements that we're going to work on for the coming year. This work plan will then be used within our own division to develop individual work plans for staff and a monitoring and tracking system in order to stay on track with meeting the goals of the plan. All things that we've kind of done behind the scenes before, but it is intended to try to be a little bit more upfront with that and also to try to develop a structure for greater success, especially in some of these priority areas that we hope to see a change in water quality or a change in management. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions or any other thoughts on the plan. Again, we have the ability to amend or edit this plan at this point. This will not go to the State Land and Water Board until August 27th is my plan. So this will come to public hearing. Ideally, this would get posted on our website by the end of this week, if not the early part of next week. So when the public notice comes out in the paper, there's a document that people can refer to review. So if you have any changes, major changes, I welcome that comment now and we can try to incorporate them.
Supervisor Morehouse.
I just wanted to say, Chase, I mean, I spent most of my week looking at the comp plan and I read through this once. I think this is an absolutely terrific job. It's very thorough. It's very well thought through. Congratulations. Thank you for doing it. And I'll look through again for some, if I have any substantive changes, though I think I probably won't.
Sure. And we did receive comments from DACAP and DNR, and those have all been incorporated already. So
Supervisor Steyer.
The Lower Pine, you said you're looking at phosphorus. Is that, sort of the erosion then contributing to that in that area?
primarily, yeah, there is some particulate phosphorus too that probably it needs to be looked at, but, or excuse me, soluble phosphorus that needs to be looked at, but primarily it's related to soil erosion.
So conservation practices from farming is the biggest probably thing.
Yes, yep. And that is in our wheelhouse, right? Those are the people we work with. So that's where we're looking at, evaluating those cropland acres within those watersheds to ensure that they have a nutrient management plan. And what comes with that nutrient management plan is making sure that they're meeting tolerable soil loss. And if they're not meeting tolerable soil loss, what conservation practices are needed in order to do that, whether that's through a crop rotation change, whether that's through no-till, cover crops, buffers, all those potential practices.
One of the things he talked about was cost sharing and things that you guys do and tying that to fund, to making sure that they're in compliance. And I think that's something we, from the county standpoint, really need to work hard on. That if you're going to get funding from the county, you need to be in compliance. But I think that's I know it's hard to do that, but I think that needs to be our goal. The Oak River watershed. So they're doing a lot of work at the Lake Association down there. Is any of the federal funding that you're looking at receiving going towards the lake project, or is that all for the watershed above that?
Yeah, at this point, unfortunately, I can't speak to whether any federal funding would come directly to the lake and within the lake itself. That's not to say that there isn't opportunities for funding in the future with that. Right now, the way the funding is set up that we potentially could get is related to the watershed. So, the closest analogy I can make is that sedimentation of Lake Ogallie, especially at the head of the lake. That is coming from erosion of stream banks, erosion from cropland, erosion from other, even woodland in the watershed. And if we can slow that down, at least, stop the bleeding, so to speak.
I agree. I think that one of the things that I don't know if you guys look at much, you mentioned it briefly about the grazing stuff, but I've seen some trout streams just wrecked that way, with the grazing. Is that something you guys look at or have anything to do with whatsoever?
Yeah, so I mean, the basic rule in the state of Wisconsin is that unlimited livestock access to surface water is allowed as long as vegetation is maintained on the banks, 70% vegetation. So if a cattle can be in a stream, they can be in a lake, as long as, however they're accessing that, is not detrimental to the vegetation on the bank.
Even-
So,
yeah.
go ahead.
Even horses, like horses, you know.
Yeah, yeah, right, yeah. So any, I guess, any critter, any animals, for so to speak, domestic or livestock. Certainly grazing is mentioned in this plan. I think we have some real opportunity to try and advance the use of grazing in our community more. I know it's been talked about a long time. It's been a struggle to get some adoption of grazing because it just doesn't always fit with the way a landowner wants to manage their land. But we do have some opportunities through our producer-led watershed groups right now. We've received some Nature Conservancy grants in the recent years that support grazing activities. We're seeing a bit of an uptick recently on livestock pipelines and getting grazing established. So I think even in the O'Galley watershed, there's a couple landowners there that we're working with that, have some interest. And I think, if we keep our foot on the gas a little bit with that and take advantage of those opportunities, we can maybe advance that conservation practice in these watersheds more.
Especially in some of the beef sectors, with that, there's
Right.
a lot of opportunity. In the Springbrook Township, there's a lot, obviously some nitrate issues out there. The solar project that's proposed, is that kind of right over the top of that?
I think much of that area that I had shown on the map will be, that land use is going to be impacted by the solar, proposed solar farm or the approved solar farm. So yeah, there's a land use change, right? And how do we monitor that and, incorporate that into how we work in that area?
Right, wrong, or indifferent, that may improve the water quality.
Yeah, I think those are the nuance in any of the land use changes is how does that impact something that may already be impaired? I do think that continuing to monitor private wells in that area will be interesting to see if there is an impact and how long does that impact takes for water quality. But that's not to say that there isn't a need for proper management within that land use too. So
In your report, you briefly talked about PFAS a little bit, but stated that there wasn't anything that kind of hit the threshold. Any comment on that? Or I know it was something that Dunn County, the Health and Rate Committee focused on quite a bit.
yeah, so PFAS that's a big onion, right? And no matter how many layers you peel off, you're going to find something new, and it's everywhere. It's right here, right now. The water sampling that we conducted a sample at every town hall or a proxy well if the town hall did not have a well within the county in 2023. And the results of that data suggested that, or it was, where PFAS was present in 14 of those wells, but it was not at a level that was above the health standard at the time. As society and the nation learns more about PFAS, there may be a change in the health standards for water quality. As those standards may come down, then we may have more concerns that we should be focusing on. Right now, our closest, I guess, control, if you will, is in land spreading. And what we've been trying to do here, especially in the last few years, is anytime we're reviewing a nutrient management plan, or Travis has certainly worked with landowners to have this conversation about where is all your nutrients coming from? Is it just commercial fertilizer? Is it just manure? Is it a combination of both? Are you receiving septage? Are you receiving biosolids from paper mills, from elsewhere? That needing to be incorporated into a nutrient management plan. Now, a 590 nutrient management plan is not designed to address PFAS, but I think getting a handle on where these applications are taking place and the potential impacts of those is at least gives us some direction to maybe evaluate how we address it in the future.
At this point, do you have any history of PFAS coming in through dairy manure or?
I can't speak to that now.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of that, any
I
tests
don't
on
know how
that.
how it would, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, it is showing up in our surface water. It is in Lake Monoman, it is in Tanner Lake. I think there's a presentation at the Red Cedar Watershed Conference a few years ago about data on that. So.
Very good report.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, also a great report. I compared it to the last one, and this one has a great deal more data. I like your appendix A, I think it is the work plan. Some of the data in there is kind of really interesting. I was looking at all the high capacity wells on the east side of Dunn County, and the temperature changed since 1950, but 6 degrees or something like that on the average. Just all that is really interesting. So nice job.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so if anyone was watching YouTube, you saw me get up and talk to Supervisor Morehouse. She mentioned that we also have number 9, approval of environmental services department budget request, and Brittany needs to leave soon. So if you don't mind, without objection, we will go directly from Chase's presentation to 9A. Is that Jenna or Brittany? Come on up.
Now, most of you serve on other committees, so you've already seen the budget report, but I did want to make sure that you guys get another understanding of what it looks like, especially if you haven't seen it before. So these budget reports are new with our new financial system. So you're gonna see at the top, we're gonna have what fund we are looking at. And then in the green is gonna be which department we're talking about. This would also be division based, so planning and zoning will have their own in that green. Underneath the green surveyor here, you can see the expenditures line. And then we're going to start going into the different categories. So we start with salary and fringe, and it's going to list out the different GLs for you guys. And then each of your columns is something you're going to want to focus on. First one's going to be 2025 activity, so you can see what we ended in 2025 with. Those are unaudited numbers. Then we have the original 2026 budget, the amended in case there were any changes, you know what you guys approved and what you're truly looking at. 2026 activity is year to date. So it's just what they have done so far this year, 8 months in. And then 2027 round 1 is what they are asking you guys to review today. I like to point out on the salary and fringe lines, if you can compare the department round 1 total of 334,000 to the original budget of 2026 at 300,000, that difference there is the salary increases. And that matters to me when you're looking at the grand total for the department. So when they're showing that they're coming in under, and it's for a surveyor, it's actually 34,500. So that means that Tom was within $300 of asking for operating increases. That is how we're looking at with each of the departments to make sure that they are maintaining that 0% operating increase. And Tom was just about there.
You got to say that again for me, Brittany.
Yep. So we expected all the department heads to do a 0% operating increase, meaning no additional levy outside of salary and fringe. And I like to find the salary and fringe difference first, to then look at that balance at the bottom. So if we're taking that, the increase in salary and fringe was 34,000, and at the bottom, you can scroll down on the slideshow. Yeah, salary and fringe ended up being 34,200 was the actual increase, and in the yellow at the bottom, it's going to show that his department's coming in at 34,500. That matters when you're looking at a lot bigger departments that are coming in shorter at like 800,000, but salary and fringe was, 750 of that. That really shows you where in the operating expenses you should be looking. Throughout all of this, if we can scroll back up one, you can see underneath the different GLs, there's going to be different colored lines. So if we're going to look at utility serve mobile, right underneath there's a blue line that's going to talk about their cell phone. That is a footnote that the department head has left for you to tell you why they're spending that money in that area. Now, this is a completely new setup. Again, some of you have seen it before. Do you have any questions on the way that the report is brought to you?
It doesn't look like we have any questions on the way it was brought to us.
Okay. Well, I will leave it up to the department heads to answer any questions you do have on the budget, but I will still stick around for a while until my meeting starts. Thank you so much for moving this up for me.
Tom, would you like to make a comment on the survey budget?
Sure, and I'm gonna just throw this out as an option. I would maybe just go through and highlight the line items that have changes from last year, if that's okay with the committee, or I can go line by line if that's desired.
Highlight the ones with changes.
Okay, so if we start at the top, we've got this line item, so this is under the, IT department's control, but there's $250 right here where my cursor is. If I go up, so 2027 round one, 250, that's showing a decrease of $110. Again, this is kind of out of my control, so to speak. These are set by IT. The next line down, internet access IT, that's a $8 reduction. I mean, we're talking very minimal amounts here. Service contract or maintenance contracts is a minus 18 from last year. And then printing and maintenance, that's showing an increase of $362. I can't really answer particulars on that, why that is, but it is an increase, modest increase, I guess. So any questions on that section? Otherwise, I'll go down into the operating supplies that I have control over.
Keep going.
Okay, or operating expenses. So one I want to highlight here, an increase of $48 is the our cell service, a cell phone that we keep in our survey work truck for contacting landowners. We've been budgeting $24 a year. That's jumping up to 72. So there is a slight increase there of $48. Then we get down to the line item with 2147 in, that is maintenance contracts. So that's an increase of $102 from last year. So we have a maintenance contract with our Carlson survey software. It's our drafting software. They are telling us there's going to be a $20 increase for next year. We have 3 licenses, so that's $60. And then we have firmware upgrades for our GPS equipment to keep it running and basically software upgrades, right? Just like your cell phone needs or your laptop. So they're anticipating a 3% increase for next year. So that's another 42. Add the two together, that's a $102 increase over last year. I'm happy to report a decrease here. The printing and duplication line item showing 0 right here under the 250. So that we have a scanner, the only scanner in the county. It's a large, wide format scanner for exactly what it says, for scanning large documents, anything larger than ledger size. And that machine is quite old. It is still working, but our thought is, what if it would die or continue to quit working midway through the year? So we had an arrangement with a local engineering firm to scan our documents for, I think it was $5 a piece. And we were estimating around a dozen documents, just so we could continue operation, right, without purchasing a new scanner. So our land information office, through retained fees, was able to purchase a new scanner. So we got rid of our old scanner. So we no longer are budgeting for that expense. We are using that scanner currently and have no plans to outsource that. So that's a $60 cost savings. Membership dues for the Wisconsin Society of Land Surveyors, that's going up $10 next year, I confirmed. And there's 2 of us, so it's going up $5 a person, and there's 2 of us, so that's $10. So we're showing a $10 increase, 570 to 580. What else here? The next section here is, I just need to explain, but there's a line item here for, is it $1,740, and it's titled conferences, seminars, and training. So what that is everything lumped together. We attend one conference each year to maintain our surveying license. It's a 3-day statewide conference. There's motels involved with that, travel, meal per diem, and then we also attend the Red Cedar Conference in the spring. It's $45 a person. So between the 2 conferences, travel, motels, everything got lumped into one line item. So the easiest way to explain it is there's a slight decrease. When you lump all those together from this current year, we were at 1,810.
Next year, I'm figuring $1,740, so it's a $70 decrease in that, and it's mainly due to reduction in staff. I had a staff member retire. They are back on a part-time basis, but that staff individual is not attending these conferences. So that's the reason for the cost savings. So when you factor all this in, right, I did all the pluses, all the minuses, I'm 250, if my math is right, $256 I'm asking an additional over last year, and that's including the IT expenses. If we take the IT expenses out, I'm asking for an additional $30 under items that are under my control. That's the expense side. I'd be glad to answer any questions on that before I move into the revenue side.
Supervisor Steyer.
Just one on the printing, I think at the board level, they talked about printing services. They were losing a lot of money or something on the printing stuff. And so I think they're trying to recover some of that cost through the departments. You remember that, Diane?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially color printing. Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, so then I'll move down on the next page, which is my revenues, and there's only 3 revenue sources I have. The main one is review from regulated land divisions, and I've been leaving that number the same at 21,050. You can see back in, what year was this? 2025, I took in a little more than that, about just shy of 24,000. So far this year, we're on pace to meet that 21,000. We're sitting at roughly 17,000 right now with 8 months in. The number is somewhat difficult to pin down because I have no idea how many land divisions are going to come in next year. We look at historical trends, and it's my best educated guess on that. So I'm leaving revenues flat. I'm not anticipating any spike in revenues from land divisions. My next revenue source would be I'm removing a revenue source. It's the line right here with 0. That is printing and duplication. So a title company comes in and they need copies of 12 survey maps for a closing they're working on. I charge them for that. Well, our records now, most of them are available online. In 2025, I got 0 requests for records. So that it was a very minimal revenue source of $40 a year for copies, 25 cents a piece. So I'm just removing that as a revenue source just because it's virtually non-existent anymore with the availability online of our records. And then the last item is interdepartmental work that we do for the highway department. So they're purchasing additional right-of-way. They're realigning a road. They're working on a construction project and to tear out, 50 lot corners along a stretch of county highway. We need to go back and reset those. So that's what that involves. We do the work and we send them a bill every year in December for our charges. So, and that number is quite difficult to pin down as well. I meet every year with Dustin Binder and we go over their anticipated projects for next year and try and get a ballpark amount. So, basically my revenues are staying flat. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the revenue side.
Don't see any.
Okay, thank you.
Who's up next?
I can jump in here. So planning and zoning budget, I guess I'm going to jump to the $40,000. I think there was a valuable lesson for myself through this process of, understanding our priorities for, upcoming years. And I identified a zoning ordinance rewrite as a priority without actually getting committee direction. So in hindsight, I think that would have been a better approach to actually get the committee direction, what our priorities are before I just throw something in the budget. So, I think we, instantly can remove 40,000 from my budget request for next year and reduce that overall amount. So, I guess I'm going to go down to the bigger number on the bottom showing
Tammy, could you
66,176.
wait just a minute until he gets it
Oh,
back up? Wonderful teams.
What page?
if you're overall, it's 122, page 122 out of 131.
Okay, thank you.
Who's gonna test it? How about now?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Who needs IT, huh? With you guys here. So Tammy, planning and zoning, you mentioned that immediately remove the 40,000 for the rezone work, and then you're moving on from there.
Correct. So see, if we look at that bottom dollar amount at that 66,000, we minus that 40,000 for that activity, then I reduced my revenue projections just carefully so I reduced my revenue 5,000 for zoning permits, 7,000 for sanitation. Just recognizing some economy issues and our lower growth projections for the county, I think it's better to reduce that revenue projection versus, trying to determine a trend. So if we go, remind us all that, I'm at 14,000 roughly over. And then basically I increased my my conference training by 1,000, some publications, so legal notices, I increased that amount just slightly. So that was $360. Probably the bigger expense that you see reflected in my budget is 4,500 for mailings. So that's where that price, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how much was part of the administrative budget because I've always paid for direct mailings that we do for the POUTS notices, for example. But next year, we will have POUT notice, our sanitation notices, in addition to, I'd like to do a floodplain notice. Just really starting to work for us to be compliant with our floodplain regulations. I would like to do a direct mailing to those floodplain property owners. So that's a reason for that $4,500 increase. I did decrease our cell phone use. I'm trying to hold the line on how many cell phones we utilize in the office. So we have two, one, basically shared cell phones amongst staff. So that price reduced. So overall,
You can get your work done with 2 cell phones?
yes, we can share cell phones. And there's some great technology that we have now in that Ring Central app that can be utilized even on personal phones. So it's a cost savings that I was able to find for our staff. I mean, the call volume isn't there to, I feel, justify staff to have cell phones. So overall, I guess that's my summary of my expenses. I don't know if there's anything specific there are questions on.
Supervisor Steyer.
Do you, with the mailings, do you foresee that going to email at some point down the road or just not?
I think there's an opportunity for Dunn County to coordinate on many mailings, right? To coordinate with the tax lister or, when tax bills go out. I think that's an opportunity. I think teaming up with townships and some mailings that they're doing. So I definitely think that there's an opportunity. Are we there yet? So I mean, if there's a way I can make it, streamline our expense on any type of mailing, I'm definitely going to try that.
Thank you. You finished then, or no,
Yep,
you've got?
that's all I have. If there's any questions.
You said the training went up. with what you guys are expected to do and the rules and everything else. That's good. That's one of the more important things you can do to keep current. So I like that. That's okay.
Thank you.
And you mentioned coordinate with other areas. Now, your departments, well, how do I want to put it? Let's see. We don't have a department head here. So we have three of you and you're each giving us your budget and so forth. So I'm kind of wondering, do you guys sit down and say, okay, how can we work and, you know, we'll share this or we'll do this or we'll mail this, or are you able to do that? I asked this before we get to Chase's thing, but I would probably forget by the time you told us yours.
I mean, generally, we talk, obviously, but we don't share some of those resources as far as mailings. We kind of do our own thing, but we have a shared supplies account, which is another budget that's at the end here that I'll talk about when I come up, but yeah, that's the short answer.
Okay. Now, I think you're on as long as
Okay.
you've got it lit up.
All right. Generally speaking, Land and Water Conservation Division budget, there was, I guess, very few changes from line item from last year to the round one. If you look at as Brittany described, the bottom line versus just the salary and fringe, we're about $3,452 difference. I guess about, yeah. So, you know, I mean, there's a combination of things that are happening there throughout our budget, whether that's, you know, but for the most part, we kind of towed the line on most line items. What is also included in all of our budget documents here is all of our grants. So many times we're predicting what the grant is going to be before we actually get it, because we have some annual or recurring ones. So obviously throughout the year, those things will potentially change. One to speak about that we have news on, and Brittany doesn't even know this because we just found out about it yesterday, but we get a staff and support grant from Department of Ag Trade and Consumer Protection. We don't get a preliminary allocation for next year's grant until typically after we submit all this information for round one. So on the line item that would be our SWRM grant, Soil and Water Resource Management grant, it's on page 3, or excuse me, not page 3. 3 of mine, not 3 of yours. Yeah, right. 3 of 4. So it's the $208,581. That is how much money we get from the state of Wisconsin for our staffing grant. Our preliminary allocation for next year just came out yesterday, and that's an $80,000 increase, which is, we were expecting an increase. We didn't know how much, but that is significant compared to what we've gotten in the past. So that's the second year of the biennium budget. Take advantage of it now because it might not be there in 2 more years. But so that's going to impact that bottom line. But generally speaking, most line items stayed fairly close as to what we had budgeted for this year. The one revenue that is changing, and this may spark a longer conversation maybe now or at a different time, is our no-till drill rental program. That program has been in existence since 2017 when the drill was purchased. Since that time, we have our net income after maintenance and repairs throughout that time period is about $22,000. That I was not here when that program was put in place, but I support the same continued reasoning for it was to build relationships with landowners, to look at no-till systems and introduce them to no-till operations. And as this program has progressed, and we are not alone on this, other counties are facing the same thing. It's not meeting the intent of that I think it was originally. we still get people that want to use the drill. I have people calling me every day. Generally speaking, is no longer, it's wildlife food plots. It's, a little bit of no-till buffer here and there. In some cases, we have landowners that, aren't really, they're doing the no-till because some cost share they're getting on the federal side, and when that cost share goes away, they stop no-tilling, so then they stop renting the drill. And I don't know that was the intent of the program. The other part is just capacity with staff. So right now, I'm the one that's running that drill around to deliver it. I feel like it's necessary to have an in-person delivery of it. I've met a lot of people through that, but I don't know that it's sustainably that is the best use of my time or staff's time when we're not really achieving the goal. So in this budget, you'll see a reduce in revenue from $4,000 to zero. I would like to keep the drill for a short period of time. It still is being used on the demo farm in our partnership with CBTC. And maybe there is an opportunity to resurrect it and maybe establish a better program. But going into 2027, I'm proposing that we aren't going to generate any revenue off of it at this time. So I know that isn't always the best thing to be doing this through a budget process. So I'd be happy to have that conversation and more guidance from you outside of it. But that is the explanation for a reduce in that revenue there. But generally speaking, we, barring that staffing grant that we received or we potentially will receive, we were just about $3,000 difference. And a lot of that has to do with the salary and fringe differences from last year to this year. So.
Thank you, Supervisor Starr.
I guess I would support that, Chase. I think you have better use of your time than running the drill. They can rent a drill from an implement dealer or something like that if they want,
And I think.
Yeah, Chase,
Like,
let's bring that back to us, whether to
Yeah.
use it or not. Right
Yeah.
now, we're looking at the budget.
Right.
So,
I just wanted
yeah.
to talk to him while he was.
I'll bring it back at
Yeah.
a follow-up meeting.
We'll just keep it to the budget today. But
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any other questions on line items that you may see any differences in, but.
anybody? I guess you're finished then. Now it says approval for 9A, approval of 2027 Environmental Services Department budget request.
Budget, we have to approve the budget.
I think we do.
With no review. I'm sorry. I would recommend that we note review of the three separate budgets as opposed to approval. It'll change.
I did miss the last one, didn't I? Yeah. There's one more short budget at the end, just over $5,800, somewhere in there. 2,800 of that roughly is our supplies account that's shared amongst the three divisions. And the remaining 3,000 is the support for the Red Cedar Watershed Conference.
Don't let that happen again.
No change.
I shouldn't
Zero change.
joke like that in public, but thank you. Thank you, Chase. So instead of it says approval, we've reviewed it and we have reviewed it. I don't think we need to take any action on it. It was a consideration of action. Well, now who could do that? Oh, Supervisor Morehouse, you make a motion to note review.
Yes, I would like to move that we note review of the 4 budget documents, round 1.
A second, anyone? Thank you, Luke. Luke seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Okay. Okay, now we have some other things to do. By the way, Brittany, before she leaves, I want to mention the way that the new system is set up for us to look at it is really nice. For example, I don't remember who it was going through and saying, here's the training, and then it listed, you can have comments, so that's really helpful.
Thank you.
Well, we have quite a bit to go through yet. We have 7C and D, and we have 9B. Jenna, is there a time frame? You're going to go through 9B, is that correct? 9B, operational planning summary and review. Well, let's go back to the regular schedule then, and we finished up with 7B earlier. And let's go to 7C, comprehensive and farmland preservation plan update, discussion on draft documents and future land use map.
Well,
Hmm.
I should actually just put it back. I mean, so I shared in the committee packet, have included the committee on different correspondence with the community regarding the draft comp plan materials. I don't know if there'd be benefit to walk through how to link to them, the resources related to them. I was hoping in the committee packet, just alone, creating comment or links to everything as one, quick resource. I'm encouraging committee members to pick a hot topic and look through that section, decide, okay, does this tell me if I could make if a decision became in front of the committee in the future, a rezone, do you feel that section, for example, would give you enough direction on how to make a decision on that topic? Or if you're in another committee, transportation, does that transportation section give enough direction on what our vision is for transportation projects next 10, 20 years?
And I asked Tammy to present it this way because there's so many times we've had to make decisions in the past, and the comprehensive plan didn't help at all. It was so vague. This seems much better. I kind of picked a couple, chapter 6 and 7, ag resources, farmland preservation plan, and natural resources to kind of look through. I want to ask a question here. Do we treat the farmland preservation plan just like the comp plan because they're together? I mean,
That is correct.
It's all one big thing. Okay. And I'm just curious about a format. Diane, you did a wonderful job of looking at things in detail. I look at some of the chapters have their outcomes. This is more of a format. Have their outcomes in the beginning, and then some of them are separate. So you have all the outcomes and then the objectives and the policies, and then some of them you have one outcome, then the objective and the policy, then the next outcome. They're different. Is there a reason for that?
It's a great question.
If there isn't a reason, I'd like them all the same.
Okay.
It's just nice to follow through, but because especially in the beginning, you give us a really nice outlook or look and say, okay, here's how every single chapter is going to look, except for a couple. And I really like that. So just something about that. And I couldn't find anywhere, I mean, there's a lot there, where it talked about unknown new businesses, on large businesses that come in, any guidance on that we should be doing. And it seems like that would be a proactive idea. Things that are large in terms of land or energy or the effects that would have economically or environmentally.
I would agree. Staff also noted the same comment too. So we're, equally my team is looking at it at the same time the committee has. So I would agree. That's a really good comment.
And one other comment, chapter 10, intergovernmental cooperation. I realize that the county is not officially a part of the city towns group, but since Chris Corpola was here, we have been. She attended, Dustin Binder attends regularly. I attend regularly. Just that could be listed as something that we should be involved with. And the city towns group is the town of Tanner, officially the town of Dunn, the town of Menominee, the town of Red Cedar, town of Sherman sometimes, all around the city, and then the city get together and they talk quarterly, share information, share gripes, and they usually get worked out. It's just a real good situation there. And Supervisor Morehouse.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I simply had made a suggestion that we add in the action items, regular meetings, whether we specify, the Towns Association or that group or some others, just that it becomes something that we regularly do as opposed to regularly think about.
Yeah, think about. Supervisor Wilsey.
Thank you. Tammy, would you say this comprehensive plan promotes growth and development?
That's a really great question.
I just know we pay a lot of taxes here, and the only way to fund a lot of the things we do is either with growth and development or raise taxes. So that's my concern. I don't know if this comprehensive plan promotes growth and development.
It promotes conversations, right? Analysis, but that's a great question. What would promoting development look like in a plan? That's a really great question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
I will say in response to Supervisor Wilsey's question that I thought the section on economic development was particularly good. And so I appreciated the collaboration with the Dunn County Economic Development with Adam Ekla. But that was sort of my question too. What are we pushing? And I've suggested in the obnoxious number of pages of notes that I've given them, that in some areas we need to be much more insistent. Housing is one. We need to say, look, this is a problem and we have to do something about it. Economic development is the same way. Transportation could be strengthened in those directions as well, because I think that's a valid question. What are we looking at in the next 10 years? And I know you've tried to do a balance between the citizen input, which didn't push change very hard or directly. So it's a balancing act.
So don't turn it off yet, Diane.
Sorry.
I'm always a little slow. I got to think about, you said you gave us a suggestion of what we should be doing with this. We should insist, I can't remember exactly how you put it.
Did I say that?
No, you didn't, but you said something about we should be more
Housing.
direct.
Oh, well, I
About-
said, and I have suggested in my notes to the staff that there are places where I think it could be much more direct.
Okay.
Housing is one, economic development is another, transportation is another, and you don't need to go through all this with me.
No, I'm thinking as you're talking and you gave a lot of information and I'm slow. So thank you. Okay. Thank you, Luke. You got any more?
I guess I would just ask Tammy, is there a way to maybe present to us areas where we could improve that so that we are promoting that at the next meeting or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good task to, I appreciate that. I think that's the lens that we need to approach this plan and different lenses and, right, zoning. I mean, I would say, right, part of an education component is, I would say zoning for predictable land use decisions would promote development, right? Will I invest building residing in Dunn County if there's zoning or not zoning? Where am I going to locate? Is my groundwater going to be protected? I think those are the components that would promote development. Do I know that this community is invested in making sure though someone is looking at that, evaluating that information and making informed decisions on where things are going to be located? So I would say indirectly, yeah, that's some promoted development. But if the plan said, hey, we want out of zoning, we don't want to be involved in zoning anymore, I may not want to live here or invest my money in Dunn County because there's no protections for my investment, is how I would look at it. So I think that's a good question on what does promoting development look like? You know, are we putting signs out on the, interstate saying build in Dunn County, all are welcome, or what does that look like? So it is interesting through the policy decisions, how would we approach that question? I really like it. So I can definitely bring forward kind of a further analysis of that.
Yeah, Supervisor Steyer.
Yeah, and you talk about signs, and I think about South Dakota and how they're trying to lure dairy farmers to South Dakota, come build out here type, because they want the infrastructure and everything else that goes with it. And not that we're at that point, but it's just their approach, where do you want to be? So good question.
And I don't know if it says anywhere in the plan, but using, you talked about zoning, so this is more specific. Something like make it easier to understand, or make it so that it's easier for people to go through the system. You'd agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So, thank you. Supervisor Morehouse, yeah.
I did add, some suggestions this document is extremely well done and I appreciate the work that went into it, but it's dwarfing. And I did suggest that it needs a pretty, tight executive summary that people can actually get through 2 to 3 pages. I've made some suggestions about doing it. I would be happy to, you don't need me, but I would be happy to help you work on that. But it does need something that people can read because they're not going to read the 80 pages. Maybe they'll read a section that is of particular interest, but even the sections themselves are long. The information is really useful, and I don't know another way to do it, but I do really think a concise summary would help a great deal.
And go back to what Tammy said before. How can we use this in the future? And I'm going to give you some examples of some of the things that we've looked at that you might even know about, where we had to look at the comprehensive plan and try to make a decision. On Highway 25, we had 3 different either rezones or requests for something to change. The first one, I believe, was there's a storage unit up on the west side of Highway 25. And here we came out with a split decision on our PRD. It was a 3-2 vote to approve or not approve. It doesn't really matter. But it was really confusing because we couldn't use that comprehensive plan to help us. And then when we got to the county board, it was a close vote again. And the individual who was looking for the change also looked at our comprehensive plan and said, look here, it says I should be able to do this. And another spot it said, look here, you shouldn't be able to do that. So as you look through this plan, think about, if someone came to you and had a question about something, would it help you? I mean, it's not going to tell you exactly what to do. It's a plan. The next one up is on the east side up by Lake Tanner on Highway 25. The water tower painting. We worked with them really well, but there were several changes over a period of time because they kept growing. And we looked at the comprehensive plan and it didn't help a great deal. Again, but if people ask for a rezone and maybe there's single family residential nearby or this or that, what does it talk about? And finally, there was one further up where an auction company wanted to display their equipment. And I don't remember if it was residential and they wanted to change it or whatever. And that one was probably the only one that the comp plan kind of helped us with. So those are just 3 in a short distance of each other. So as you read it, pick one that you like. You might want to look at some ag stuff, Dave. And and say, if one of my neighbors wanted to do this, how would this guide me? I mean, it's not gonna tell you what to do, but how would it guide us? If they wanted to rezone for this, rezone is probably the biggest thing. But just kind of take a look at it, as economic development, as business or whatever. Kind of take a look at them, see how, if you think it can guide you or if it's needs something else. Diane?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do think that we need to be careful. I mean, this plan is not, it's not an implementation document. Look at the policy statements, which are included in all of the sections, and see if from a policy standpoint, from our job, which is policy, it gives you some sense of direction, but it's not going to tell us what to do. It would be impossible in a document like this.
Thank you. Yep. Supervisor Steyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you use Chat GTP or whatever it is at all, but the kids do. And you talk about executive summaries and things like that. You plug a document like this in and maybe it could help form something like that, summarize it into a page or 2-page type document, and then looking for instances in here where things are going against each other. You know, you could look for conflicts within the plan or things like that. Not that we all like doing work the old fashioned way, but there might be simpler ways to summarize it and go through it and just to help with some of that work.
And I believe our consultant's probably going to listen to this recording. So I'm assuming Susan will also, pass on these comments to her because she's the current owner and developer of the documents, but definitely will provide these comments and pass them on.
Our
Thank you.
consultant, who has just been named the new executive director of West Central.
She's going to stay with us, work with us,
Correct.
even now that she's
Yep,
back. Okay.
yep. We got a couple weeks left of,
Okay.
We have a window.
we have a window, yes.
So we talked about comprehensive plan. Now the farmland preservation plan is built into there. Did you want to talk about that? Tammy,
So we do require to get certified. So there's farmland preservation's two components, right? There's a zoning ordinance that through, state statute requires us to define intensive agriculture and a primary ag district to be certified farmland preservation that are also supported by a farmland preservation plan. So there's two components from a plan, zoning, and then there's the third component that is, administered by land conservation, where if a property owner chooses to take tax credits, then they have to then go through compliance review and then management through that conservation plan from a land and water standpoint. So it's kind of a three-legged stool as far as that component goes. But for us, every 10 years, we're required to update our farmland preservation plan, recertify our zoning ordinance, and in order for property owners to stay compliant with those tax credits.
thank you. So 7C, comprehensive farmland preservation plan update, discussion on draft documents and future land use map. Any further questions on 7C or explanations? Okay, then let's go through to 7D. Modular data centers, discussion on draft ordinance concepts. I stress the word concepts. Emerging land uses, this is almost something we just mentioned with the comprehensive plan. Tammy, you had a real nice, a good report.
Yeah, this is a topic and from last week when this went into the packet to where I'm at today, I feel like my mind is changing, or my process has evolved to what this ordinance could look like. And some, reasoning to that is just yesterday, Dunn County is not unique. Several counties are having this conversation statewide. And so some resources have been further developed by our I'm Wisconsin County Code Administrator organization, and ordinances have been shared, different moratorium languages to all these different approaches. So I've been analyzing several different ordinance approaches. In my recommendation to the committee, or just not even recommendation, but kind of my analysis was looking at our traditional zoning ordinance, right? We have a district, we say what uses can be involved in that district, and then we jump to supplemental standards. And, so we stick with that framework. We define modular data center, we say where we want it, at what scale, and then what the supplemental standards are. I mean, that's kind of the big picture of where I think, we'll end up. I was trying to throw this almost like a in addition idea to emergent technology, to be a capture of not just this one hot land use topic today. Could we come up with a category that was encompassing something? And as I work through that, I also don't want to put us at risk of saying, oh, that was an unintended consequence. Did we, like a hydrogen storage or, carbon capture station? We just don't know. So I'm going to kind of back away from this concept B idea of emerging technology infrastructure as even defining it. I guess my recommendation to the committee at this point would be, let's define modular data center. Let's define, a use-specific approach to the different districts, and then come up with those performance standards. I think in the performance standards, if I should have encouraged the committee to bring their nice binder of the zoning ordinance with you. Thank you, Supervisor Wilsey. So in there, we have supplemental standards now. Livestock siting, for example, is spelled out. Non-metallic mining standards are defined. ADUs are defined. I envision us having obviously a very defined set of approach here, but then also fixing some of our administrative section of our ordinance where we define these, framework for a default standards for any future use. Without getting, devils in the details, but state statute changed where if we don't have substantial evidence for a project that's proposed, we can't put additional conditions on them. So I think Dunn County, that's my urgent, call to the committee, is that we really need to start defining our thresholds where here's the, where if it hits this, impact, XYZ impact, if you cannot mitigate it, it's not going to be allowed, right? So that we really start protecting ourselves based in state statute and substantial evidence requirements. So, that said, I don't know if there's any kind of reflection, if the committee thought about thresholds where we think we would see, the scale of data centers occurring. And again, I think it's modular data centers, right? So we've further defined and limited the use right up front by only defining them as modular data centers.
Sure.
Supervisor Steyer.
Is power requirement how you would define them is that the simplest way to?
Actually, I would say no, because what if the energy and the technology changes and we said you could have 2 megawatts and now everything became more efficient and they can do, triple that amount because of just, efficiencies that are built in. So I would do a scale based on I should probably even share the screen. I would look at, I'm going to pull up this. Could it be a threshold of like a low intensity. So we're trying to write it in the ordinance being low intensity. I guess I'm not sharing my screen here, am I? So unfortunately, I don't think it's, this one perfect, you hit 2 megawatts, then it's allowed here. I think it has to be maybe an operational site. And I'm just throwing out 2 acres. They're utilizing existing infrastructure. There's anticipated to be little traffic impact from construction to overall use of the site. The overall outdoor equipment to be used. There's limited visual presence. So I feel like it has to be kind of a tiered thing, or, low intensity based on a couple of factors again. So maybe we do as a footprint, the leased area, operational area, and the use of existing infrastructure. The moment we get to, additional utility improvements that are required, generation, operating a generator for backup power, I think those hit another scale. And then finally, great, and again, high intensity could be, the committee can decide we only want 5 acres maximum in even our heavy industrial district. And then in that there would be major utility improvements, right? We heard that, a substation, we know that those uses can be pretty small footprints, but ultimately have a lot of noise and other associated infrastructure that could change that character of the area.
Mr. Shannon had proposed a pilot program. Any thoughts on what Nodiak is proposing?
So my understanding is that this pilot program I think the committee would decide, is it a low intensity? So I think the committee would have to have some at least framework of an ordinance to say then this pilot, we would test that ordinance language based on what their proposal is. That's how I would take that suggestion.
You mentioned backup generators. They would have that at all 3 levels, correct?
No, they wouldn't. Nope. So I think what's been presented to us by Nodiak is there is no backup generation. So we don't have that, a concern of generators running. But, an additional fuel storage or any kind of associated noise that would come with that. So
No battery backup?
no battery backup.
Nothing. Okay.
Supervisor Morehouse.
I'm getting a tiny bit confused because I came in thinking that let's think about the larger context here. But back to specifically to Nodiak. I don't know how asking for a pilot is necessarily different than asking for a conditional use permit, which is what they need. Am I correct about that? Or is there an intervening step, the crafting of an ordinance, and maybe Jim needs to answer that too, but what would be the process for them?
I guess that's thinking out loud here. Would the process be, it would be a conditional use, right? And the pilot would require them to go through that conditional use.
Right.
And it gets vetted by another, committee. But also, correct, yep, to the BOA and through that process, but then a check with the committee on, did we cover all of the supplementary standards that we want to define? What did we miss in that process? I don't know what an agreement or what approach would be, is that, obviously that would be an investment on Nodiak to try to go through that process. They don't want to get through part of it and say, us rip the rug out under them either. So I think there should be, if we go that route, it would have to be some kind of transparency or scope of what that all involves.
Supervisor Wilsey.
The town of, Hay River is having a meeting on August 10th.
Correct.
Do they have any say in what happens, or is it all up to us?
The
And,
town-
or do you know what the meeting's about?
Um,
And
So-
will that have,
Let's stick with, do they have any say?
okay,
Because we don't have any control what the meeting's gonna be about. That's a great question.
That's a loaded question. So I'm going to approach this as, what does this say look like from a township? So if there's the ordinance, right? Our townships all would have a say in whatever the county does for revision to an ordinance. So the townships can file a resolution with the county in opposition of any ordinance change that would be forthcoming. So that's one component of the township say. Another component is, let's talk that conditional use process, or even a permit, right? So a permitted use, townships generally fall under county zoning have limited local say in a use. At a conditional use level, in our ordinance, we offer that process. We give the township 60 days. We're required by statute or in our ordinance to give the township 60 days to provide a recommendation on any project that is in that conditional use category before the Board of Adjustment. Again, when part of that recommendation is going back to that substantial evidence, right? We don't like it is one thing. What don't you like about it and what can we do about it? So very similar to what I would say, and I'm just, bear with me, but I would say livestock sighting, right? The component is, what does the township say at that time? The township can say, hey, we feel that there's some road impacts. Can we have some negotiation or some conversation about, hauling on our roads and have that as a condition? Yes, that's an option, right? There's evidence, there's a concern, and that's what comes through that conditional use process. So yes, a township could have say in any conditional use as long as it's, grounded in facts, something that can, is observable, we can measure, and so forth. So I know I'm not answering your question about Monday. I believe that's just an informational discussion where Nodiak is just going there to be a good neighbor, or potential good neighbor.
Once again, we don't know what it's gonna be for sure. We'll let them.
Sure, that's fair. Yep.
I guess a specific question, if they said we're doing a moratorium on data centers, can we overrule?
I'm not aware of a township's authority to do a moratorium.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Supervisor Morehouse.
I don't believe that the county has that authority, so it seems to me, our corporation council is here, but it seems to me tremendously unlikely that a township would have the authority to.
I mean, the county has authority to enact a moratorium, but townships who fall under county zoning, having their own individual moratorium, I think would be interesting to see how that would be challenged through the courts.
Supervisor Steyer.
So hearing all this, then, with what you have up on the board, I sense some urgency on your part, and I would agree, that we need to move forward with the process, whatever we're gonna do, one way or the other. So what does that look like as far as next steps or what?
Before you answer that, Tammy, the next step, that's really what we're looking for here. Special exception and Board of Adjustment, just so we understand. If something was to go to the Board of Adjustment now, they would have to make a decision without really any kind of context. They wouldn't know all the things that we've been going through already. And the Board of Adjustment approves nearly 100% of things that come to them. And then put their conditions on, and who knows what the conditions would be. It seems up to us to set the parameters, and that's where we need to go, like Dave just said right here. So
Thank you.
where next, Tammy?
Or next committee, do you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I get the feeling that, well, first off, could you bring up, didn't you have in your original report where you took all the concerns that had been brought up by public and answer, addressed them? Or am I thinking of something else?
And have my, Tom pull that back up.
We did have just a little bit of reading this time, so could be confused about where I got it. Wasn't there a spot where you,
Correct. So this is, what I would offer is like the planning consideration. So the supplemental standards, the categories that I would recommend to the committee in this ordinance would encompass these components, right? So it's, the compatibility with surrounding land uses. I think it sounds easy. And that's where going back to that threshold is tough to also, what is that adjacent land use and is it compatible? I see some squinting, so I'm going to increase the size.
yeah,
So the infrastructure demand, again, is that, are they utilizing existing infrastructure or they're asking to build new, or would that use require additional infrastructure?
On that point, Tammy, do you have to spell out each part of that?
We will,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
and you don't have to go through all this right now, but these are things that people have brought up. And other protection of groundwater, surface water, other natural resources, that includes flora and fauna, wildlife, etc. I'm just looking at, I'm trying to think of people that have called me or talked to me. Is there anything that they've mentioned to me that I don't see up there other than trust? That's one thing that has been brought up to me, but it seems, in listening to what we've said over the last few meetings, that is it true that the committee would like to go forward and see if there is an ordinance that can address all the concerns that we have? And you said you've seen some ordinances, so first of all, is it possible to do that?
It is, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then let's hear from you. It seems like we would like to go forward. Any comments on that?
So is Hay River, is that zoned or unzoned township?
Zoned
It is zoned,
township,
okay.
yep.
So we're going through this, through the county, but if they were unzoned, the county could stay right out of it, right? Am I mistaken?
That is
On
correct.
an unzoned?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I think we need to move forward with this, yes.
I think that we need to move forward to do something. I just guess I'm a little concerned about how much time that process would take, given that it seems clear that Nodiak is urging us to move forward to make some kind of decision. I have no idea what their time frame is. But if we do something, we need to move this up, I think. And that's a demand on staff and
Comments?
Yes, I would agree with Supervisor Morehouse.
I would agree as well. So
I guess I have envisioned I can bring forward some actual draft language to the committee at their next meeting.
Okay.
Well, I'm close. I just
That's
wanted to obviously vet, some, general direction. I mean, what I would ask for the committee for direction is at least on districts that you are you want me to explore, because that really, directs my path on, we didn't want it in that zoning district, so why did you even go there? So I mean, is that something, sorry, I didn't
No,
want to
go,
interrupt.
keep
If
going.
that's
Yeah.
fair, is I don't envision offering this in any residential district. I didn't envision doing this in the intensive or primary ag district.
You said yes or no on that?
No,
Okay.
no to them districts. A consideration for maybe a low intensity use in the general ag district. And then moving through our commercial districts, if we want, we can have it as a low to moderate in the commercial districts. and then up to a high modular data center use in our heavy industrial district.
Seems like a good start.
Yeah.
Okay,
Does that seem fair?
okay.
Okay.
And you'll bring that back to us, and we recognize that in working with this in 2 weeks, that perhaps other things get put off, and we understand that you have to prioritize. So keep that in mind. Okay, and we are also not saying here we are going to have an ordinance. I think we probably can have a good one, but it has to satisfy the needs. It has to satisfy the concerns, so. Good, we'll look forward for next time. Really start.
Just one comment, there's a lot of publicity around data centers, but I do think that what's been presented before this committee and the scope of what we're looking at is different than what some of the things that have been talked about in the community previously. So for the, just for the public that hears this and, just know that the scale and that things that we're talking is a lot different than what some of the previous things that were proposed and what our committee is looking at. So.
Okay,
Right.
good, thank you, very nice job. And we have one thing left, I think, and that would be 9B, I'm sorry, operational planning, summary review and approval. And Jenna,
Okay, good morning. I don't intend for this to take very long, but I did include a draft summary in your packet. It starts on page 128 of the PDF. Yep. So I just wanted each committee to have eyes on kind of the results of the exercises that we had gone through the last few months before they are all compiled and provided to the executive committee next month. So with that, I would just ask if there are any concerns or changes that you would like to see before this is compiled as part of the larger summary of all of the committee work that was done.
Supervisor Morehouse.
Thank you, Supervisor Kadir. I thought you did a really good job of summarizing this. Looks like the discussion that we had, and I guess it moves forward. I don't exactly know how the executive committee is going to deal with this, but that's another bridge we will have to cross.
Yes.
So I thought also that it was a good summary of what we did.
I will say this is just the content. We do intend for it to be a little bit more formatted and appealing to the eye. As-
Yeah.
So, all right, that's all I needed.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Jenna. And that was, we already did 10, 11 announcements. I'd like to announce that the REU presentation is at the Raw Deal today. Was that research?
Research experience for undergraduates.
And it's usually very interesting. It's nice to see all these smart young people from around the United States. And they've done so many different kinds of studies and work in Dunn County. They have posters that they presentation and they'll talk about them. It's really fun to go to. You can stop in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour and have coffee or anything else that you wanted to drink there. Any other announcements? Next meeting is August 20th, which Tammy's going to have that done and Chase is working on his stuff and all good. Anything else? We are adjourned. Whew.